So Jordan, I thought we would shoot out here in East Village. You know, it's a lot going on. It's a beautiful day. I'm shooting on a Sigma FPL, but
No. The FPL has an electronic shutter. How am I going to know when you take a picture?
Oh, I'll just give you like a really subtle hand gesture, something secret. You and I will only know it. The viewers will have no idea. It'll be subtle. Welcome back, DPReview TV viewers. It is Chris Nichols here, and we're looking at another lens today. Yes, it's an ultra-wide lens. Yes, I feel like we've been reviewing a lot of ultra-wide lenses lately. I could use a break. Luckily, though, we have got potentially a real winner in ultra-wide zooms today. We've got the brand new contemporary Sigma 16-28mm zoom, F2.8 aperture, full frame lens, and today I am shooting on the Sigma FPL camera, a camera of which I have a rocky history. It's a mixed bag. There's a lot of things I don't love about using this camera. Interface is a little bit janky. I have a hard time recommending it, but I figure Sigma professional lens, Sigma professional body, makes sense, and you know what? It's got a beautiful sensor, lots of megapixels. It'll certainly be a good test for this lens today. Now, when you think about ultra-wide zooms, especially 2.8s, especially full frame, and especially back in the SLR days, these lenses were huge, heavy, and expensive, very bulky, large diameter filter threads, if you even got filter threads at all, and so on and so forth. So when you play with the contemporary 16-28, the first thing you notice is how compact it is. 450 grams, I mean, under a quarter of a knock, that's insane. But also with a nice compact 72mm filter diameter on there. Now it is a contemporary lens, so it's weather resistant, you know, built fairly well, but you don't have a lot of bells and whistles, just an autofocus, manual focus selector switch. No custom buttons or anything like that. You know, nice zoom, feels a lot like the other Sigma contemporaries, but overall this is lightweight, compact, easy to carry, and yet it is giving us that 2.8 maximum aperture. Okay, so let's test autofocus here, and we're just going to do our classic BPD test. Now this has a stepping motor in it, which are often very smooth, especially for video applications. Maybe not the fastest focusing, but let's give it a shot here. I'm getting to my minimum focusing distance. And I mean, not only is that smooth and consistent, but as you can hear, it's also very quick, right? From close focusing to infinity. I mean, I'd have no problem autofocusing with this lens. It seems very quick. It's silent without the beep turned on, of course. All right, let's talk about close-up capabilities. Now lately, we've been playing with a lot of smaller format lenses, APS-C lenses, micro four thirds ultra wides, and those often give you really good macro capabilities. So you get the versatility of a macro lens and an ultra wide in one. We don't get quite as good macro reproduction. You know, we're getting about 9.9 inches from the sensor to the subject, and a macro reproduction of about 1 to 5.6 life-size reproduction. It's not great. But what I will say is the results seem very sharp up close, and on close-up shots, the bokeh is looking beautiful. So as you can see, we got a beautiful hot sunny day here in Calgary. It's a great opportunity to test things like flare, sunstars, ghosting on this lens. And you know, at 28mm, even stop down, I'm really not seeing any ghosting, and flare is really well controlled. You can see here, very minimal loss of contrast, not really getting washed out areas. It's really quite beautiful. At 16mm, flare is still really well controlled, but we are starting to get some interesting reflections here, ghosting below the spot in the sun there. You can see that against this post. You know, and there's this kind of ring, this overall reflection above, but you know, it's still quite well controlled. The sunstars, though, pretty average. I mean, we're not really getting those nice, well-defined, dramatic sunstars. You know, it's got a 9-blade aperture here, which should give us beautiful bokeh, but it's not really doing anything amazing for the sunstars. Oh, Bokeh, the longitudinal chromatic aberration, those color fringes you just seem to get in the out-of-focus areas, both front and back, that are notoriously difficult to get rid of in post. Well, we found a water fountain, which was just getting hit by direct sunlight. It's a great example to see if there's Bokeh in the foreground and background. I didn't think water fountains are even allowed anymore, but they're back. They're back, and that's a good thing because we get a nice test out of them. And the nice thing about it is this lens really doesn't have any Bokeh problems, so that was an easy talk. All right, let's talk about the breathing characteristics of this lens. And breathing is where we're focusing the lens from close up to infinity. Does the focal length change a little bit? Does it zoom in and zoom out? If it does, that's not great for video. This lens is the tropical pearl diver of Sigma ultra-wide lenses. I mean, it doesn't have to breathe very much at all, just a tiny bit, and even then you're amazed how little it actually does. At 16 millimeters, pretty much the only place you're gonna see the breathing. It's very minor, as you can see here. As we go towards the longer end, 28, breathing is basically non-existent. So I think for a lot of video shooters, this is gonna be a very desirable lens. All right, so let's talk about bokeh characteristics on this lens. Now, first off, at f2.8, you're gonna see here a fair amount of cat's eye in the corners on the bokeh. Now, of course, when you stop down the lens, you're gonna see the aperture blades in those specular highlights, and I'd say here, actually a little bit of a polygonal look to them, but overall, the autofocus specular highlights are very smooth, no onion rings, no soap bubble effect. I really like the transitions from in focus to out of focus on this lens, and overall, it's got a very smooth look to it. I would say the background bokeh is more on the livelier, energetic side, but it's a neat look, and I think overall quite beautiful. All right, how sharp is this lens? Well, as usual, we did our test charts on the FPL, all 60 megapixels. And first off, let's talk about the wide end, 16 millimeters. Looking in the center at f2.8, I was very impressed with how sharp it was right off the bat, wide open. Stopping down at 5.6, not much improvement. We look at the corners here at 2.8, they have still good sharpness. They benefit a little bit from stopping down to 5.6, but overall, I found 16 millimeters on this lens to be where it is optically the sharpest out of the whole range. Now at the other end, 28 millimeters. Here in the center at f2.8, it's still really good. It is softer than at 16 millimeters. When we stop down to 5.6, it gets really sharp, really even all the way through. Upper corner at f2.8, again, you can see it's just a little bit soft, and then stopping down 5.6, it improves again. But overall, this is a very sharp lens. We are pushing it on a very high resolution sensor as well, and I think it's holding up. I would happily shoot this lens wide open at 16 millimeters, and if I was shooting at any of the other focal ranges, if I could stop down a little bit, you're gonna be super pleased with the sharpness. So, who should buy this lens? Well, I think if you're using L-mount cameras, you should buy this lens, the Sigma 16-28. You see, Panasonic have a nice 16-35 f4, but as a general rule, Panasonic lenses tend to be optimized for video. They're not always the sharpest lenses, but they have minimal breathing, right? But this particular lens is very sharp and it has minimal breathing, and it's a 2.8, not an f4, and it's still compact. So I think if you can swing it, this is definitely the way to go. Now in Sony E-mount, of course, you got more choices, things are a little bit more complicated. So the Tamron 17-28, we haven't reviewed that ourselves, but we've seen a lot of reports and lots of sample gallery shots, and it is very good, but it's not quite as wide, a little bit bulkier for sure. So then you look at something like the Sony 16-35 f4, that power zoom. Well, we reviewed that, it's charming, we like it a lot, good video characteristics. It is small and compact, but it's an f4. Here again, the point still stands that we have a 16-28, it's a 2.8, it has great photo and video characteristics. This, I think, still makes a lot of sense. As a use case scenario, I think video users will like this lens. I think if you're shooting landscapes other than the sunstars, this has really nice characteristics as well. And absolutely, we shot in the mountains, we do some impromptu wide angle portraits with it, environmental stuff. So I think Sigma's got a real winner here. It pairs beautifully with their 28-70 2.8 as well. You've got great professional options at very good prices, and they're compact. So I would definitely check this lens out. Of course, leave comments below, and do go to DPReview.com. You can see the sample galleries that we shot for this lens. You can play with those as well. And please subscribe to the channel. I know it's been really wild, like so many videos at once. I'm mentally exhausted. Jordan's clawing his eyes out. He's tired of seeing my face every single hour of every single waking moment of his life.
The truth.
Yes, the truth. But, you're like, why would I subscribe to you guys if I'm just gonna get video bombed in a day by 6 videos? But this is a very rare occurrence. Normally it's far more spaced out than this. So we'd really appreciate the love and support that you could show us by subscribing. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. We adore you, we appreciate it, and we'll see you soon for another episode of DPReview TV.